just wanted to actually touch a little more about the last chapter, because that was also such a major chapter where John, with these different symbologies, he just gives us this whole history of God's people, the church, Jesus, the dragon. We have the war in heaven. There's all these amazing things, and we covered it well, I think, but there's a few parts that we just kind of skipped over because, we were talking about so many things, and I just wanted to bring up a few points to you and ask your thoughts on it. So in chapter 12, where the woman flees into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. So we are comparing that 1,260 days to being the same 3.5 years that the witnesses testify for right before the resurrection. So what's happening to the church during that time? What is this fleeing into the wilderness and being fed? What do you think this is talking about?
Well, it's kind of a mystery, but the important part is God's taking care of his people. It sheds comfort that don't worry, I'm going to take you to some place away from the trouble, and I'm going to feed you there. I'm going to take care of you there. It's kind of like, don't worry, I got this handled. That's the way I feel. But then, always doubt comes in because it's kind of mysterious the way it, carried away on wings of a great eagle. I mean, how does that's like, is that a metaphor? What is that?
Right.
So, but the message there is a message of comfort. So however God wants to do it, maybe he's hiding it in a mystery because he doesn't want to give away the plan to the enemy, to Satan. Because then if he gave away how he was going to do it so specifically, Satan would try to cut it off.
So in verse 14 there, it says, like what you mentioned, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So it sounds like some hiding place where the woman is protected from the serpent and is nourished, kind of like an Elijah thing going on. No,
during the last 3.5 years. So it has a time place because he's placing a time on it. So you should be comforted during these, because this is going to be tribulation. This is going to be a time which has not been ever since. It's the tribulation. It's not the wrath of God. That's really going to be a time that never was so terrible in the whole world. Is definitely going to be in the wrath of God, which is right after the tribulation.
A lot of Christians say that the church won't go through the tribulation. Now, we think that the church does, because there seems to be this great tribulation on earth right before the resurrection. But then if you look at this chapter here, it does sound like God in some way kind of pulls the church out of the way into some sheltered place, doesn't it?
Yeah. And what it is, I don't know, but God's going to do it because he says he's going to do it.
So like so many things where people have disagreements on events in Revelation or even the Bible in general, both sides might kind of have the right idea. The one side is saying, the church remains until the resurrection through that period of tribulation, and the other side says no, the church is removed. And so my version, and I think yours and my version, is that the church is on earth but is being sheltered and in some way removed from these events.
Peter, there are a lot of people that don't want to read the book of Revelation because it's frightening for them. It's too much. It's too much trouble, and it's a puzzle. And you can't be lazy with this stuff. You have to search it out and be diligent and hunger. You have to have a hunger to want to know. And a a lot of people don't want to do that, or I don't know what percentage of people, I don't know the exact percentage, but people don't want to do it because they're afraid. It's a frightening thing to hear all these things. But it really comes down to, you gotta trust God. The whole thing is, you gotta trust, just like every day today, we have to trust the Lord. Well, even in those times ahead. But these are exciting times, and you have to trust the Lord, whatever may be. It's easier
Amen.
said than done, of course, but you got to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes there's nothing you can do. So it's kind of made easy for us, I guess. It's hard to endure. It can be some painful times, but kind of like there's that little anecdote about Dwight L. Moody being asked if he had dying grace, and he said, "No, I don't, because I'm not dying." That's when it happens, it happens. Now,
Yes.
continuing on a little bit, there's some other interesting symbologies, and it says, "And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth." I mean, I have a few ideas about what that could be. What do you think it's talking about here?
Well, when I was a young Christian, I was taught by a couple of different Bible teachers, and one Bible teacher said that the flood was the flood of lies that came out of the media and covered. But because of the earth is so distant, and they don't have every place covered, that people just didn't even hear it. They probably didn't hear the lies, or they weren't interested. They were so busy with their business of the day that they don't like even what's going on today in Ukraine with Russia and Ukraine. A lot of people don't even know what's going on. They don't care. They couldn't care less. They're just in their own world. So as far as like the flood of lies that coming against the Christians and stuff, there are people out there who say, well, I never even heard of that. And so that's what he was talking about. So the earth, the expanse of the earth and how big it is, and the lies don't permeate every place, but they do permeate a lot of places, but not every place. That was a theory that I was taught, and makes sense.
Interesting you mentioned that deceit that the dragon tries to use against the church, because we're now going to go on into chapter 13, and we're going to see all about what we call the Antichrist, and we know that a major part of what the Antichrist does is deceive, and he's going to really even go after the church itself, I think, if we kind of cross-reference that with what Paul has to say about the man of sin in 2 Thessalonians.
Yeah, Peter, bringing it up to this current time right now, you look on, I mean, the technology is so amazing. Having YouTube is amazing. But the propaganda, the lies that are being told constantly, it's amazing. On all sides, they say that in war, the first casualty is the truth. The first casualty in a war is the truth. And I never seen it so clear as today, because it's so in your face. The lies and the propaganda trying to influence you in your thinking is amazing. And that's going to go on till the very end, because remember what Jesus said? He said, don't be deceived, for many shall come in my name. That's just one example of the deception, but the deception is going to be so powerful that if it were possible, even the very elect, in other words, God's people, would be deceived. It's going to be that powerful. So it should make you really want to pray and ask the Lord, Lord, show me the truth. We're going to need to. You don't want to rely on your own wisdom.
John chapter 15. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you. If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. If ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Remember the words I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. But all these things will they do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me. If I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But now they have no cloak for their sin.